Hey, it's Joe, and welcome to another episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. And today we'll be talking with Harry Rayo, CEO of TestGrid, all about maintaining quality and costs in this uncertain market that you're probably all experiencing. If you don't know, TestGrid has been around for a bit, but they're doing a lot of innovations, helping companies simplify their testing, making them more efficient. They offer a bunch of different things like mobile app, cross-browser performance, API testing, with codeless automation capabilities, all under one roof, one platform. So it's like an all-in-one solution. And I think you're going to learn a lot about this software and also a lot about what's going on in automation and why you need a testing platform to help you with all the things in automation. You don't want to miss this episode. Check it out. This episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast is sponsored by the Test Guild. Test Guild offers amazing partnership plans that cater to your brand awareness, lead generation, and thought leadership goals. Get your products and services in front of your ideal target audience. Our satisfied clients rave about the results they've seen from partnering with us, from boosted event attendance to impressive ROI. Visit our website and let's talk about how Test Guild can take your brand to the next level. Head on over to testguild.info and let's talk. Hey, Harry, welcome to the Guild.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me here.
Awesome. Great to have you. I guess before we get into it, Harry, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? I just have a very small bio. I'm sure there's a lot more than just CEO of TestGrid.
So I have a master's in AI back in the day. I graduated from San Diego State. Very honored to be a part of that university, but that's my side. And then I worked for a lot of corporates, Joe, as part of my career growth. I led a large team in my last job where, mostly mobile IoT related, anything that has to do with, emerging tech has been my always go-to, and have always been in the forefront of innovation and, that's me in short, but yeah.
I love it. So I love how you have a master's in AI. So especially relevant nowadays when people are talking about AI and testing, it's not real, but you actually you have a company that has a product. I believe you have some AI capabilities. So how close to that AI is it to what you were learning about when you were doing your master's?
People barely knew what neural networks was back in the day, right? Like 2005-ish. Think about that, right? Almost 20 years ago. We were fiddling out with like neural networks or neural engines at that time. And given the capacity of your processing capacity at that time, you were limited to do what you could. But we knew the capabilities at that time. But always, that has been my, ultimate goal, right? It's always been in the back, but with the generative AI and things that came up, it became much, much easier. And thanks to the hardware that we get today, the processing has become much, much faster. So it's always been in the back of my mind. And I just the right time. You need to see AI in my view, Joe, cannot be built like it cannot be a feature. It has to be built on a platform. It cannot be, not everything like a simple algorithm can be an AI, right? So I'll get into it, but let's continue on that.
All right, great. Yeah, let's expand on that. It has to be built into a platform. I guess, what do you mean by that?
I'll come to the journey of TestGrid,
Okay, good.
right? So originally we started back in the day 2015 2016ish with a vision of getting scriptless into the world, right? So we were building apps. I wanted to build a factory, like a factory pattern, right? Simple. When you're building apps as an architect, for me the biggest problem was, hey, there is this API team, database team, front end team, and all these. And by the time you integrate all these, it becomes, let's say, code merge is happening. You're bringing API and the UI together. Things break. And if I want to test it, like in a factory, like in an assembly line, I have to go purchase like different tools. Like, I don't want to name the companies, but you need browsers, you need mobile as an infra first. then you have to write automation code on top, which becomes expensive. Now you have to maintain an automation that code for the future, so that it doesn't break. Now you have to go start integration testing, which is like, how's my API, how is my UI, is that getting the right data? And now I have to also do performance. Imagine by the time I'm done with it, I spend multi-million dollars a year down the line, and where is am I getting the return on the investment that I'm planning to do? This has been my main go-to, Joe. Like, plug and play rather than integrating multiple solutions. I wanted to create a most innovative platform, not just a feature. For me, infra is a feature. For me, scriptless is a feature. Can I bring all this together? There's a difference between an app store's Apple's app store and then an app, right? So we wanted to build that. So with that infra, that foundation, it took us a long time. It took us close to 7 years. That foundation being laid properly, lot of scriptless education, pass and fail, training model. The data have been collected enough to train it. Once that is done is when we trained our AI to the level we could release it. It's very simple in today's world, right? The AI you can just give it your manual test cases, your user story. We just need to learn about your page and it will generate it. We don't end there. We also it generates a scriptless. So, enterprises hate losing control. So even a manual tester can go ahead and edit it if they want to. They don't have to, and then run it on our own infrastructure, right? Like mobile devices or the cloud. And it has auto heal on it, as well as it has self healing capabilities. Long story short, we'll get into details of it, but end to end, typically it takes 8 to 24 hours to write a test case in Selenium or Appium, Joe, right? And during the cycle of it, life cycle, it takes another 8 to 24 hours to maintain it for its XPath, flakiness, whatever, element IDs change, right? All that has been brought down to mere minutes or seconds. So that's where we are.
Nice. So I guess so it sounds like you started with in mind where we are now. So it seems like it's extensible, and it was created that way with this in mind. So how did you see the future then when you started 2015? I know like some tools were all with AI, but it wasn't like now. How did you know like what got you into build a platform at that time to have the foresight to think, okay, down the road, I know it's going to grow to this?
That's I actually wanted to build this, Joe.
So,
Right, day one, right?
yeah,
Think of like Apple wants to build the latest VR tech.
right.
Get to that, you had to build a platform. It was incremental, but did I knew the path? I didn't, right? But to get to this, we incrementally started learning that, okay, I have to get this one first. How do we keep floating at the same time while we are innovating, right? So that had to be done. And this has already, you cannot believe this has been in the making for 4 years, right? But the foundation was never touched. This team was building it with the vision that this foundation is laid out, right? But imagine you were just doing in the siloed world, not as an integrated platform, right? So that was it. But to answer your question in short, this is what I wanted to build, but it was not there. So you have to time it.
I just think it's important to highlight because you have a background in AI. You created this with AI in mind. It wasn't like you just had a solution and you slapped AI on it all of a sudden. And now it's, you know what I mean? A lot of times, sometimes solutions been around for a while and they just put AI on it, but it was built from the ground up almost to be AI driven, it sounds like.
Exactly. I mean, it's a lot of people have been trying with ChatGPT, right? Can it solve our industry problems? I'm sure, Joe, you went in, you tried writing your own Selenium Java code. Does it solve our industry problems? No. We know what the limitations are. It's not an enterprise-ready solution, right? That's where we knew what it took us, but yeah.
All right, so that's interesting then, because a lot of people are leveraging ChatGPT, the open API, to get some functionality. It sounds like you're not though. So it's your own AI algorithm that you've been training from the beginning to handle this?
Absolutely. Now, we cannot leverage it. Again, it's not testing oriented. It's good in many ways, but it does not fit our requirements. Testing is a different beast, right? It's a good NLP engine. I'm not gonna deny that, right? But does it fit our needs? No. And most of our users are enterprise clients, Joe. And we had to build this hardware in and out. And it's very expensive. We'll go to that at a later point, but hey, it's what it is.
Nice. So what do you call this platform? Is it TestOS where you highlight it's like an all-in-one solution? It's not like you have to pick and choose and do it all yourself. It's like an all-in-one platform. Is that what TestOS means?
That's who we are. TestOS is operating system for testing. It's self-explanatory, and I'll try to. I usually, in my team, right, Joe. This is what I give, like who we are as a company. Think of us like AWS, but for testing, right? What does AWS do? It does your dirty job. That is infrastructure, right? No one wants to handle it anymore, right? That's exactly what we do. We take your testing infrastructure. We have a public cloud, private cloud. That's the center of our test OS. And everything is built as SaaS on top. In AWS, you got your DynamoDB, you got your own things. But how did that scale up, right? When we go to our enterprises, we don't go say, hey, just get rid of your existing legacy Appium code or Selenium code. We support your legacy, but we call it shift and lift, right? First, you should be shifting to this infrastructure, which is like cost effective, which brings you the best ROI. Then you want to bring all your code into our system, plug and play. You have hundreds of test cases in Selenium, give it to our AI. It will generate like probably in hours. That probably took you years. It can be easily migrated. It's as simple as that. But at the core, that's what we are. Infra with SaaS on top. So SaaS that goes for AI, scriptless automation, all that. We have performance testing tools, single user metrics, as well as load testing, and we got API testing. So we cover the entire spectrum in our testing world.
Interesting. So it's you use the best of the best in class. So like if someone already had Selenium test or Appium test, they can use it within your platform. A lot of times they need to do some sort of conversion to a proprietary system or language, and then they're locked into that. So how does yours work then? It just reads
Excellent. Excellent. So it's a two-part question for me, Joe, right? So part one is you bring your own Appium or Selenium Java code. We are just an infra provider. We have, for example, for mobile, we have a virtual USB. It's our proprietary tech. So literally it connects to your system. You can run XCUI test, whatever you want from our hardware. We have a cart that can go on premise and sit, and you can connect 50 devices. That's our on-prem system as well, right? So bring in your own code. We don't do anything on top. It's like plug and play, infra only. Part two of your question is if we convert it into our system, which is scriptless, right? So that's when we also generate Appium Java and Selenium Java. So the bare minimum of it is the code that gets committed into your GitHub. So no strings attached. Tomorrow, you just want to do it locally, you can 100% do it. That's how we built it. Again, with enterprises around our, enterprise adoption being the center of this. But yeah.
Love it. So I guess let's just go over that a little bit more. You keep saying enterprise. So who's the solution for? Obviously, enterprise is has a lot of difficulties. There's a lot of things they need to do, and it sounds like this would solve a lot of that, getting them on one platform, not having to worry about having now integrate with an offshore provider for servers to run their tests and all that, and a bunch of other things. So enterprise is who's your core audience, I guess, is the short answer to this question.
That's a great question, Joe. I'm a startup founder myself, right? We have both the audience, but enterprises are the difficult ones, right? The problems are way more. And for our startups or small SMBs, not just startups and SMBs, It's a plug and play. They're mostly public users. We have a public cloud as well. For them, it's ready to go. The questions you were asking me, right? These like no strings attached, and can I get my own Selenium code, things of that sort. Who do you think asks us mostly? That's our enterprise clients, right? But we go all in, not just enterprises, but we have our own public cloud, which is much more cost efficient. But again, it's not the most, it comes with like it's shared devices, shared browsers. So enterprises want their own tunnel, their own dedicated devices. Different, but we do both.
So, dumb question: is scriptless different than codeless, or is it just another term for the same thing?
It's the same thing, Joe. Everyone calls it. It's low code, no code. Let's put it that
Okay,
way, right?
cool.
Yeah.
So could we dive in a little bit into your AI, how it works then? Because it's mostly audio only. If people are trying to visualize, okay, this sounds great. I have a bunch of Selenium tests. Now what? I want to try this out. How does it work?
Absolutely. So let's say let's go through a typical SDLC and app development process, Joe, right? You have a tech debt that your team takes, and now you have your BAs do write manual. Sorry, they write the user story, right? That user story goes to two guys. One is the dev, other one is the tester, in parallel, right? So the dev takes the user story, starts developing his code. Tester takes that user story, starts writing the manual code. So we want it to be at the inception of this test case writing so that we train our AI properly, right? All you have to do is maybe give the user story if it's clear enough, or just go to your manual tester and let's say a simple login scenario. Again, I'm simplifying this to the basic, right? We go very complex. But for example, on the login page and your Facebook, for the example of it, right? What do you do to test a failure scenario? You say like, check if I'm on the right page, and then, enter your username, enter your password, tap on the login button, see if that login message showed up. This is written in multiple ways, let's say in Jira or other tools that you use, or even in spreadsheets. They write it literally in like simple basic English, some complicated like in a user story, given then that or BDD format, right? But what we do is we literally take that and integrate it into our system, and just click generate test case. We understand the page that you're going to and generate the scriptless, like tap on, enter username, enter password, or check available, enter username, enter password, tap on login, validate if this message is available. Simple code. Go ahead and click run, use a browser or use a mobile device. And let's say our AI system was not able to find the element at that point. We have everything about your page, and we constantly learn through our ML, so that now it auto heals itself. It couldn't find that username. It's like, okay, the ID that was provided, I couldn't find it during the generation. It will go ahead and run through its ML, find it, do it, enter the username, enter the password, tap on login. Worst case, if it could not find the ID, we have an OCR AI inbuilt that will find it, click it, execute, and you don't have to maintain it after. That is the way it is built. So that's a long story short.
So does it get better over time once it has your history, your unique history, where it'll know like after X amount of runs, okay, I know that for sure this is gonna work to identify.
Absolutely. That's the ML model that's built on it. Again, we don't cross train it for security reasons,
Right.
Joe. But for that particular application, we are a sandbox, and that is what it constantly learns. And as much as it's learning, it just gets better. You know that. So
Absolutely. So three parts to automation: it's writing the test, running the test, and then troubleshooting the test, right? So first
yeah,
part, you have scriptless. It automatically will write based on user stories, the automation for you using scriptless. And then when it runs, on runtime, what usually kills things is flakiness, bad environments, test data.
yes,
So it helps you with the figure out
self healing.
self-healing. So is there
Yep.
any other functionality in there that helps during the run process?
So it learns, it goes through the machine learning, right? It sort of goes into the predictive. That's again, I don't want to give out too much of the future, but it goes into that prediction model. and starts learning where it's going to fail, right? And then it's going to correct itself and give back.
Is there anything in the system that lets you know that you're missing coverage based on checked in tests that you have already? Anything like that?
Not yet, Joe. That's probably in the future, but we have much more to cover. But I think that's a good use case, though.
Cool, cool. So besides that, I know you do a lot of other things, which I think is really critical nowadays. You have different areas, as you mentioned, like core. Do you help with performance testing, security testing, robotic automation, those types of things as well?
Yes, yes, yes. So security, not our forte right now. We're not mostly focused on that, Joe, but performance, 100%. For us, performance is two-part, right? One is single user metrics. The other one is load testing, the typical word, right? So imagine this. In our portal, when you execute your test case, these are, web it's easy, mobile it's difficult. So web, we do it for both web and mobile. We don't discriminate these channels. But first one, on the mobile side, for example, you have an app that you're building, right? Single user metric is like, as a user, when I launch the app, again, go back to the Facebook example, I tapped on login. As an architect, my worst nightmare used to be, how many API calls did I make? Am I doing everything as soon as I logged in? Right? And how much time does it take to go to the next page? What is my CPU usage? Am I creating some memory leaks? Right? And do I have some battery drainage? Am I constantly checking the location? Again, when you're building these at scale and at pace, you cannot get these. You have to constantly send it to the testers. They have to create more tools and all. This is available by default. We call it transaction analysis for every application that you have. And as soon as you click on, or any action that it is performing, when you say enter username, or let's say best transaction is click on login, we know all the API calls. We have system that learns all the API calls, shows during this transaction, these were all the API calls that were made, right? And now I can say, hey, guys, why? Why did we load 100 API calls on login, right? Can we not lazy load it? Can we not do it at a later point? That is in my hands. Then I know the CPU spike. If we have constant memory mapping, right? As transactions go on, we know if the memory is being accumulated or being released. So we go into that detail, Joe, so that you don't have to worry, right? That's part one of the single user metric. Then now you want to go into load testing. We have, let's say you have your JMeter scripts. You can upload your JMeter scripts into our system, and we simulate, like, let's say you want to simulate 1,000 users. You can simulate that. Now run that simulation on our load runner, I mean our own internal routes system, and go ahead and execute it. Now rerun our test case. That was single user. Now with the load of 1,000 users, how's your test performing? This is my dream or my vision. Like, I don't have to do anything. Everything happens in a one-stop shop way. That's a true integration for me.
That's critical because you may have the functional test down. And you're like, oh, now we need to do a performance test, and you're like, no, we need to get an environment. We need to set it up this way. It sounds like you just, I don't know. It's probably not as easy as point and click. I need 1,000 users and play, but it sounds like it makes it a whole lot easier than starting from scratch.
100%. It's just a simple web-based. It's very, very easy.
So how about alerts? You must have all this data, and then obviously people are going to want to know, okay, what's going on with the system? Are there any type of reports or alerts that come up that maybe give you insights or alert your team, hey, your battery usage is up? Or do they have to dig through a bunch of information? Yeah.
No, we call it a build a delta. So we call, like, we compare like benchmarks. Like, this is your best, and that's a report. That's simple. So it's in your build. We constantly keep sending email alerts to the people who subscribed internally inside that organization or whoever ran. You can run it through your CI/CD. We have all sorts of integrations for like Jira and everything. But you constantly, to answer your question, you get those reports, and you can customize those reports as per your needs. So that's the best part. I'm not a fan. I want to get into predictive analytics. Right? For me, that's bare minimum. We will get there, but that's the yeah.
Awesome. So for mobile automation, is it native automation or is it Appium? So
Again, we don't discriminate. So you can bring in your web, you can bring in your React Native applications, or again, native can be different, right? Hybrid, all this. We support everything. Again, why? Because we were the pioneers in scriptless. Again, we didn't go bombard. Market was not ready for this low code, no code tech at that point. It took us a long time to perfect it, to get to the point that we solve this problem for everyone. So we do it for, a hybrid, a native application, maybe iOS, Android, everything.
so we started off talking about how this application helps people, especially maintain quality and costs in uncertain markets. So obviously you've seen the economy as it is. How would you say a tool like this would help an organization kind of maintain costs and not just get rid of people, or how does it help, I guess?
Absolutely, Joe. So again, it's the way we going back to the cost question. It's a one-stop shop, right? Imagine today you're paying for infrastructure providers, right? Like public cloud, private cloud. Then some of them have subscriptions for low code, no code tools, right? Some of them have this. So if you want a tool consolidation, that's TestOS. But that's, right there. And we are a bootstrap company, and our pricing is very competitive. I don't have, again, I'm not against the VCs, but to bring that, I don't call it transformation. I want to be the most innovative company, and you have to be terraforming the space. I feel personally, when I was exploring the space, it lacked innovation. The tools were nice, but it needed that next level, right? AI brings that. You can imagine now just using your manual test team, you can go ahead and cover the entire testing spectrum. And ROI, what took you typical industry numbers are to write a Selenium or Appium test case, Joe, is 8 to 24 hours. And medium or simple, medium, complex test case, right? You have to write the code, maintain it, everything during the lifetime. And then to maintain it, it's another 8 to 24 hours, right? Something breaks, hey, let's go ahead and edit the element ID, talk to the dev and all. Now that is brought down to mere minutes, if not seconds. You tell me the ROI.
Yeah, for sure. And tool consolidation is a big deal, because if you're starting creating your own framework and then you need to run it on a server and you need the infrastructure and need to get into performance, it becomes a nightmare. So I think it's a huge point for sure.
Absolutely.
So Harry, are there any customer testimonials that talk about what they did before and what happened after using a solution? Anything you could share with us?
Absolutely, Joe. So there are a bunch of customers that we have. Again, SMBs to enterprises. I'm going to quote the enterprises. One of them is an insurance solution provider. They had a lot of it. They had let's say a core product. Insurance is mostly like core, and then they customize the solution. Right. The core was automated. The customized solution was not. And now they're like, where do we go? Like, it's a lot of money to spend, but the customize is the one that goes to other clients, right? So how do we get started, and how do we get from here? So they were evaluating these low code, no code tools. And then once we showed this capability, it was a slam dunk. There was nothing else. And we do have all the testimonials on that. And the amount of ROI the VP got out of this is just insane, right? He's like, that's it. It's a one-stop shop. What they were looking for, a dream come true.
Love it. But Carrie, before we go, is there one piece of actionable advice you can give to someone to help them with their automation testing efforts? And what's the best way to find, contact you, and learn more about TestGrid?
Okay, so one piece of advice is always stay on top of tech. Make sure we are innovating, because simple example, if I stayed at scriptless, we had to outdo ourselves, all right, like what we did. So we have to constantly keep innovating, else someone will wipe us out eventually. That is so. There is nothing wrong. Always learn, always innovate. Be that, right? Be Steve Jobs if you could in your own world. You don't have to be that, jobs provider or a big person, but always learn, always innovate, right? That's the best part. Enjoy what you do. The second thing is you can all find us at testgrid.io. And one another thing, Joe, everything that you have done for the testing community, this is our give back. Anyone who watches this show, they can come to us, and if they can use Test Guild 20 as a discount code, we can give them that discount, and all uppercase.
Thanks again for your automation awesomeness. The links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/A457. And if the show has helped you in any way, why not rate it and review it in iTunes? Reviews really help in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end, full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Test Guild Automation Podcast. Head on over to testguild.com for full show notes, amazing blog articles, and online testing conferences. Don't forget to subscribe to the Guild to continue your testing journey.